It is now 19 years since the restoration of democratic government in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that is from 1999, which ended multiple decades of military rule. So there is excitement in the air. Nigerians are set for the 2018 Democracy Day, which also marks 3 years of the Buhari administration. Now, democracy ushered in a new era of civil liberties and the rule of law. In fact, experts have described these past years as a special period for the nation. It is said to have guaranteed for Nigerians the means of fair representation in government. The question is, how has it been so far? What are the gains of the past 19 years of democracy? And talking about the annual celebration, what makes this year's event special? We will be responding to these issues and some more after this short break. I am Joy Osiago. In the studio to discuss the 19 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria is Mr. Musa Dikko. He is the chairman of Buhari Area Council. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We also have Dr. Sharif Gali. He is a political scientist from the University of Abuja. Thank you very much, Dr. Gali, for joining us. Yeah. It is 19 years of civil governance, and here we are trying to mark 3 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. How would you rate the journey so far, talking about 19 years of civilian rule?
The journey so far can really be quantified by the achievement which everybody can really see on the ground. Before the advent or re-emergence of democracy in 1999, Nigeria has had a kind of series of military interregnum, military intervention which undermined the liberty as well as freedom of humanity to that particular respect in this particular entity called Nigeria. It also paved a window for massive corrupt practices, devaluation of our currencies, as well as institutional collapse. But with the re-emergence of democracy in 1999, especially with the coming of Obasanjo under democratic banner, Nigeria began to have a new experience. This experience was defined by a kind of democratic governance, rulership by consensus, as well as representative democracy, i.e. people's voices were really heard. People voted for their representatives to make decisions on behalf of them, you know, especially at the House of Parliament. So to this particular respect, we've also come to see how the institutions in Nigeria began to transform, you know, from the hitherto dictatorial tendencies of military juntas, now having and wearing democratic uniforms of civilian attires. We began to experience institutional changes, the fundamental human rights respected, as well as having a kind of changes in the economic fora. So these are some of the major changes that Nigeria experienced in the political landmark. This part, we come to experience some hitches or even glitches, you know, in this particular trend. Because when democracy returned to Nigeria, Nigeria also began to experience a kind of new era of corrupt practices, even though as pioneered under the military, the civilian regimes also began to experience.
We'll come back to that issue. Let me bring in Mr. Dikko in here quickly. Dr. Gali talked about the different experiences, you know, compared to what we had in the military era. Talking about when President Obasanjo took over in 1999 all the way to where we are today. You also talk about institutional changes. What are your take on that?
Of course, Dr. Gali has said it all. However, in my own way, I will be saying 19 years of independence. 19 years of democracy in Nigeria is as good as 19 years of independence. Because if you remember when Nigeria got her independence in 1960, when someone like me was not born, the system lasted, or democratic system lasted just within some few couple of months. Not until when in 1978-79, we again witnessed a comeback. And it lasted for just a period of 3-4 years. And there it was scuttled again. Coming to 1999, we now regained back the freedom. We now got back again, in my own view, the real independence. And that is why we have lasted 19 years today. And looking at the achievements so far, I will be congratulating Nigerians for having come this far in a democratic system, knowing fully the kind of nature of country we are in, the kind of leadership style we have had over time, the kind of impunity we have had from the military era, which has corrupted the system. And now we're struggling to go out of that corrupt activities of the past leadership, during the military in particular. I say so because during the military era, you have no voice. I have no voice. Today, I have a voice to say there is corruption existing somewhere and the need for us to fight it. So I'll be congratulating Nigerians because we have come this far uninterrupted. 19 years of uninterrupted democracy is not easy, looking at the nature of the country we're in. However, I will be saying to us, the need for us to move ahead, consolidate on the gains within this period of 19 years and make better our country.
All right, let me go back to Dr. Gali. You were making reference to some of the hitches, the challenges that we've had over the period, talking about from 1999 to where we are now. And you were laying emphasis on the issue of corruption, which could be seen as part of a carryover from the military rule. Could you continue and expatiate more on that?
You see, when the military took over since the inception, you know, after the First Republic, there were some, you know, indices made in terms of corrupt practices, you know, up to the point when this particular current democratic dispensation started. This is really obvious, and every Nigerian is aware of. But the issue is that the shift between military regimes as well as early democratic settings of Nigeria, you know, immediately after 1999, to this particular point, we're beginning to see changes in terms of, because corruption, as the normal adage goes, is that has been institutionalized in the country. But one major issue is that what difference do we have between democracy and political development, which are two different issues? You might be democratic without political development because there are two different issues. Democracy is just government of the majority. Majority rules, minority right. But you could really adopt democracy even though it might be nascent, not really fully grown up or matured democracy. But what about political development? Political development is only attainable when there is equality in that particular society. Equality between poor and rich. Equality in terms of access to medical health care. Equality in terms of education. So if a state attains this particular level of equal progress of the people of that particular society, democracy is said to have worked in that particular society because equality has been raised, which is one of the paraphernalia of democracy. Then there's a part, we have a kind of organized and effective governmental organizations which really come together to effectivize the political processes as well as bureaucratic flow of that particular society. So you also look at these indices. Nigeria has drastic governmental organizations which, if really monitored, supervised and checked, they will really come up with fruitful achievement, you know, for the country. But if there is no monitoring, we have our political organizations left, you know, just like that, definitely they will really not be motivated to really achieve what is expected of them. Then number three, we also have a kind of differentiation of political institutions, that is professionalism. Nigeria has a lot of professionals, think of it, you know, lawyers, you know, engineers, medical doctors, a lot of them, even politically, you know, oriented institutions with this particular adequate level of professionalism. But again, what needs to be done is a problem of political culture, the problem of these particular political organizations as well as the political processes. Now looking at the political culture, what has really motivated the political culture of Nigerians? That's the problem. Has democracy really worked, you know, in its own homework to deal with the political culture of Nigeria? Oh yes, you know, from 2015 we have started seeing these particular changes. What change do we need here? Nigerians, despite the diversity, despite the regional variation as well as ethnic affiliations, we come to decide to look for a common good, leadership that will really take Nigeria to the promised land. Nigerians forgot about religious differences, tribalism, ethnicity. Why? Because the leadership we're looking for, regardless of where it comes from, we want a leader who will unite Nigerians, a leader that will really pave a way for developmental processes for the Nigerian people to really earn the dividend of democracy.
All right, Dr. Gali, let me bring in Mr. Diko quickly. Now that we have come to the 3 years of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, and tomorrow we will be celebrating Democracy Day, talking about the 3rd year. What is different about this particular celebration? What is new? What should we be celebrating? What are some of the achievements that we should be looking at before we look at the challenges?
Of course, like I did say, I'm congratulating Nigerians once again for even having President Buhari at this time. The fear of President Buhari in Nigeria is the beginning of progress in Nigeria, and is the beginning of fight against corruption in Nigeria. So I will be congratulating Nigerians, because looking deep down, if we have to be sincere with ourselves, we will agree with ourselves that the rate of corruption in this country has reduced. If not drastically, it has reduced. And of course, every attempt we will make as leaders in this country, it is going to be difficult for us to completely wipe away corruption because of the diverse nature of the people of Nigeria. But I want to say to us that there have been achievements within these 3 years. If you look at the infrastructure development presently in this country, you will tell yourself the truth. We will tell ourselves the truth that there has been some changes, if not to the level that we expected, because we know very well that before the coming in of President Buhari, there was serious and very high expectations on the aspect of change. And we are saying to us today that today Nigerians are beginning to understand that Nigeria first before any other thing. And because we now consider Nigeria first in this democratic era and under this present administration of President Buhari, you will agree with me that as a local government chairman, I am very, very careful in dealing with the people at the grassroots. I'm very, very careful in managing their resources. I'm very, very careful in delivering dividends of democracy. I now know what to give to the people, because it has to be a process, it has to be a kind of dividend that is having direct benefit to the people. And that is what Mr. President is out for.
And how are the people responding to all that? Because we also want to look at people contributing to governance, talking about change begins with me. How are they doing that?
Yes, change begins with me. And that is just what I'm telling you. Today in Buhari Council, for instance, within these 2 years of administration of APC in Buhari Council, you will agree with me that there are a lot of changes. You are seeing them live. You can feel them. And the people are beginning to be happy.
Give us examples.
For instance, come down to Kubwa today in Buhari Council. You will see the massive market development that is ongoing. And what are we saying? An area council, a local government cannot survive only by statutory allocation that comes to such a council. Therefore, we need to bring up activities, bring up development that will give us IGR, internally generated revenue, so that with that, we can develop our territory, we can develop our area councils, and giving the people right at the grassroots what they so desire. Now, within this era of President Buhari, all he has said to us, abandoned projects must be completed because they are started with the same Nigerian resources or resources coming from Nigerians. And as such, we must not allow abandoned projects to be seen everywhere. And that is why you can see within the city center today in the Federal Capital Territory, the massive reconstruction of roads and completion of roads are ongoing. That is the focus of Mr. President, which is coming down to the last man. Now, the reaction of the people, of course, there have been high expectations. People expected that as soon as President Buhari comes in as president of this country, every recovery he makes should be shared among Nigerians. And we are saying, no, that is not the change we're talking about. Every resources made available by Nigerians should be used to develop Nigeria for the benefit of Nigerians.
All right.
Yes.
We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll talk about the low-hanging fruits, since people are expecting quick results. You're watching Nigeria Today, and we are discussing Nigeria's democracy, the journey so far. Let's take this break and go outside the studio to hear what Nigerians have to say on the nation's Democracy Day anniversary celebration.
What do you think should be done to ensure that democracy thrives in this country?
Eliminate corruption. If you compare now, the present moment, to 1999, 2000, 2003, you know, there are a lot of improvement in the way the democracy is in Nigeria today. But what I would advise is that there should be a synergy between the legislative arm and the executive arms, because in such a way that if they collaborate with each other, is going to bring much more improvement to our society.
Our major background problems that give rise to others here in this country. Now there are parts of sentiments like religion and ethnicity. First and foremost, let us kill all those ideas from ourselves. Look at Nigeria as one nation and look at it patriotically.
A leader, a person that can lead a nation, does not fight for post. Is people see him due to his priority, and people see him based on his attitude that he can control the nation. He can bring the benefit.
What we should do is to be sincere to the electorate, in the sense that all the promises that have been made should be fulfilled, and let people feel the dividend of democracy, not only at the top, at the grassroots.
We're back in the studio with Musa Diko, Chairman Buhari Area Council, and Dr. Sharif Gali, a political scientist from the University of Abuja. Gentlemen, you listen to people out there talk. I want to start with you, Dr. Gali. What's your take on the opinions of those we heard a while ago?
Yes, of course. I also, from the synergizing issue raised by one commentator there, as well as what my honorable chairman said earlier of resources. You see, in a democracy, before we really begin to take off and look for a way, you know, and how to really get there, is definitely to have an equitable way of distributing resources. Because as rich as Nigeria, when you travel to some part of this particular entity, you begin to wonder, are these people Nigerians? Because they live in abject poverty. You understand? You know, I had an experience in South Africa that people even go and deliberately infect themselves with HIV/AIDS, expecting that the government has a package for HIV patients, the welfare, you understand? So we need a society that will provide a welfare for the weak. And that's the change we're talking about, because this current administration is really providing some packages, you know, for the unemployed as well as the weaker population of Nigerians. So we must really develop this particular area of resource distribution among our own people. Then apart from this, if you don't distribute such resources, you need to educate the people. We must democratically promote education, because when you educate the people, you're giving them the wealth, which they can really take care of themselves without necessarily coming back to you. And in Nigeria today, we have about 14 million out of school children. And this is the largest all over the world. And even in Nigeria, northern Nigeria. So you can see this is a democratic challenge. Of course, these people living in abject poverty, they are the voters. They are the ones who assemble under the sun and the rain to come and exercise their own franchise. Those who are enjoying from the fruits of the nation, they are out there enjoying, just watching the poor people, poor masses, suffering under the sun. They are there in the AC, taking, you know, eating all the sweetables, you know, allowing the poor men to vote.
Need to get to the electorate.
The dividend of democracy should go to the electorate, who are the majority masses. Then another issue is we need to empower women. Why? Because the root cause of our problem is lack of women empowerment. We don't mean you just release women into the street and independently carry out whatever they want. No, empower them economically. Because, sorry please, you know, I just want to exhaust this.
Okay.
Because there are studies carried out which show that most of the crimes committed in the society are committed as a result of fatherlessness. So if you allow women without without husbands, children without fathers, this research shows that the highest population of those in prison are those people who emanate from fatherless homes.
All right.
The highest number of people that commit crimes emanate from fatherless homes.
Okay, let's bring in Mr. Diko here so that we can also hear his own views. He has touched on many salient issues about the challenges that we're having and the need to address them, and also, as we were saying before we went on break, how to get across the low-hanging fruits to the electorate. Let's hear from you. What's your opinion about some of these challenges, the need for the executive to work hand in hand with the legislature to take care of the electorate?
Certainly, even hearing from the masses, from the Nigerians out there, you will agree with me that the need for us to assess our success, 19 years of uninterrupted democracy, we need to assess it as well. We need to look at the synergy between the executive and the president and the legislators, just like Nigerians out there are talking about. And I want to say to us Nigerians out there that in looking at the synergy, we also need to look at the developmental process democratically, and to actually know what we really need in this country when we send out our legislators to go and legislate over us and on our behalf. For instance, just of recent, the process of giving the local government autonomy in this country failed at the National Assembly. And I am saying here that if we must go down to the grassroots, for these grassroots to get the real dividends of democracy, the local government must be allowed and must be given autonomy.
But how prepared is the local government for that?
Very well prepared. I must tell you, very well prepared. Citing the FCT as an example, the area council, the 6 area council in the FCT are having their resources, they are having their allocations direct from the federation account without intervention from the FCT administration. And we are doing better. We are doing well. We are doing our best. All that the FCT administration need to do is to monitor how these resources that are being given to us are being applied.
And are you generating your own resources?
Yes, we are trying to make sure that we generate our own resources, even though there are bottlenecks. because you know the FCT is set to be governed or to be administered by an act of National Assembly. And as I speak with you, there are a lot of areas that have not been properly administered by the National Assembly. There are acts that have not been put in place. However, we are doing our best in generating revenue internally, and that is why you can see us within the meager resources we have from the statutory allocations. We are still doing something. For instance, in Buhari Area Council, I have a salary of over 100 million per month, and in most cases I get less than 150 million per month. Yet you can see what we're putting in. Now what we're saying, if local government are given autonomy, the state governors need to only monitor and supervise the use of these resources. And I tell you that once the local government are given this autonomy, the last man is going to have his total opportunity of challenging that chairman that is not performing, of challenging that chairman that is misusing his resources. But I tell you here, the absence of autonomy at the local government is really affecting the grassroots, not getting the real dividends of democracy they are supposed to get. Because there is no way you will stop a governor who is driving on a siren to ask him for what
time is against us. Mr. Musa Diko, I want to thank you very much. Musa Diko, the chairman of Buhari Area Council, I want to thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you too.
We'll also like to thank Dr. Sherif Gali, a political scientist from the University of Abuja. I want to thank you very much for your contributions this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And that's our program today. We thank you for joining us. Do have a great evening.